At this time, I'd like to introduce to you Rebecca Kiessling. She's a pro-life advocate here in Southeast Michigan. The issue of life is especially personal to her. Please welcome Rebecca.
Well, some of you know my story, that I was conceived and raped and targeted for abortion, nearly killed at 2 back alley abortionists in Detroit. But I'm not here to share my story today because I am amongst the living and we're here to remember the dead. Today also marks 13 years from the day that our daughter Cassie died in our arms at 33 days old. And she was our second adopted child. To everyone's surprise, she was born with a very serious genetic disorder. And all I kept finding and researching it was how to detect it in utero so that you could have the opportunity to abort. And most of the babies who had what she had were aborted. A doctor took it off. She spent 12 days in Children's Hospital and 21 days in our home. And a doctor took her off of oxygen when she wasn't ready to be, and she stopped breathing. And there was a bit of malpractice involved a couple of times, and we had 7.5 hours from the time she first stopped breathing, and we were all together, my husband and her birth mother Lynn was with us, and she died in our arms. And I wanted to do something to remember not only Cassie, because I have a place where I can go to remember her and to grieve her loss. But so many women have no place to go to grieve the loss of their unborn child, whether from abortion or whether from miscarriage. And since that time, I've lost 2 babies due to miscarriage. And I read an article only a couple years before about a parish in Massachusetts where they had a special chapel where there was a guest book, and women began writing their stories about their miscarriages or about their abortions, until it became known as a place that people would travel to from many states away, so that they would go and it was asked, why do you think women are coming from so far away to be able to write in these journals? And they said, because these women have no place to go to remember their unborn children. And so I had heard about Holy Sepulchre, and I had heard about the memorial here, and I wanted to be able to have a place like that right next to my daughter Cassie's grave. And so we bought an extra grave site, and we bought a marker. And then we were told within a couple of weeks that it would not be allowed because it was a city cemetery, and they told us that you're not allowed to have a marker where there is no body. Thursday night, I spoke at a banquet for a pregnancy center in Lake Charles, Louisiana. And a pregnancy center counselor shared a story that you'll see in LifeSite News here shortly. But this is a story about a message in a bottle. This pregnancy counselor and her husband enjoy going to the beach regularly and looking for carnival glass, looking for glass and bottles that have washed up from the Gulf of Mexico. And she said they find all kinds of different glass, colored bottles, intact, some broken. And on this particular occasion, just recently, she found a clear bottle. And for the first time ever, she found a bottle with a message in it. And she was so excited, couldn't believe it. And she opened it up, and she found that there were 2 photos in this bottle. And they were ultrasound pictures. One of them from the end of May, and the other one from the beginning of June of this year. And you could clearly see the image of that unborn child in the first one. And the second one was the ultrasound of an empty womb. And clearly marked on these pictures was Planned Parenthood. And on the back there was a message that said something like, "We miss you and we will love you forever," with initials. And this counselor pondered, why somebody would do this. Why would they put a message in a bottle like this and send it off? I talked to my friend Abby Johnson, and she used to run a Planned Parenthood in Texas. And she told me that that is standard procedure, that they do a first ultrasound because they have to show gestationally, make sure where the baby is, even though now they're actually required by law to do one, but they've always done this for a while, I guess. And they keep it in the file. And then they usually don't give pictures of that baby until after the abortion's done, if the woman asks for it. And she said she was always amazed that once in a while women would request these pictures. And she said at the time she wondered, are they glutton for punishment? Why would they want something like this? And she said that after the abortion they always do another ultrasound to be able to make sure that nothing's been left behind, so that if the woman ends up with an infection, they would be able to say, well, we did our part, we made sure that there was nothing left. And so she said that if a woman came and that she asked for those pictures, that they would give them to her. And now today, Abby tells me that they encourage women to go and get their records. And I could see several reasons why you might want to do that, because there could be some discrepancies, in the file, and maybe you could bring a cause of action against Planned Parenthood, which is being done now. But also, for many women, that's the only thing that they have to recognize the life and death of their baby. It's like the birth certificate and the death certificate that was mentioned here earlier before, that no one has for an unborn child. And you think of what a woman like this is going through, what she's gone through, that she has literally bottled up the pain from the loss of her unborn child. Literally bottled it up. But at the same time, probably hoping that it would be found. And what a miraculous story of God's providence, that it would be found by a pregnancy resource center volunteer. Truly providential. And I hope that somehow that this woman will know that her bottle was found, and that she will be able to experience real healing through this center, through Christ, through the love of this counselor who found the message that she sent off. I'm so thankful for this place, this memorial, that people can come to remember. It's very profound. It's very moving for me. And many people think that unborn children just vanished into thin air. I read Monica Miller's book, Abandoned, and I was very frustrated when they were trying to pass a law here after Monica had found the babies in Lathrop Village a couple years ago. And they did pass the law, that for incinerating the baby. And I thought, is that really the answer? Because it's exactly what people think. People think that babies just vanish into thin air. And discovering their bodies shows that they lived and died, and that they're real people who had arms and legs and fingers and toes. And because, babies in the future generations are now going to be incinerated, they're just like people think they're going to vanish into thin air. At least we have this memorial site with the bodies here, so that for generations to come, people will know that babies do not vanish into thin air.